Thanks. It's nice to be here with all of you. Thanks for coming. I took this picture a few years ago in Panama when I was in the rainforest searching for endangered frogs. And it was a dark and very quiet night. And the quiet itself was alarming because decades ago, these forests were filled with an orchestra of frog calls. And as extinction has ravaged these forests, so too have we lost songs. The next day, I was back at our field station, and I was introduced to this particular frog, who had been taken from the forest about 10 years before. She was the only known individual of a species that had never been described to science. Scientists had found her 10 years ago and had kept going back year after year trying to find a mate for her, and every year they came back empty-handed. And so here she was sitting in my hands, and she was dying. I could feel it. Her breathing was shallow, her movements were slow, and I could feel that there were days, if not hours, left in her life. I'm a biology professor. I study extinction. I think about biodiversity all the time. But this was my first time holding extinction in my hands. And in that moment, I felt this incredible, alive connection with this little life because we share life. Like, that is amazing. We all share life. And hers was ending, and with it, it was taking an entire branch of the tree of life, a species that would never again walk the earth or hop the earth and would never really be known to science. And holding that little frog, I realized one of the greatest causes of suffering in my life, and I am going to venture to guess in yours as well, which is this. No matter how much we think about connection and know that we are interconnected, we don't feel it. We don't live day to day with our hearts feeling open and connected. And this is a great irony, because interconnection is actually the fundamental nature of our reality. It is written into our biology at every level. Your cells contain trillions and trillions of bonds in your DNA. Your very blueprint of life talks about interconnection. And that DNA is packaged in cells, which themselves are the result of an ancient symbiosis where some living things began living inside of others. And the cells in your body are not even all your own. Scientists estimate that about less than 50% of you is even human. The rest of you is microbes. And so you're an ecosystem. You're not even a human. And the ecosystem that you are lives inside a broader ecosystem. And we love to divide things up. We love to call this a tree and that a moss and that a rock. But think about it. Does this tree even exist without the rest of the forest? If you take away the sun, if you take away the rain, if you take away the below-ground nutrients, if you take away the above-ground seed dispersers, do you even have what we call a tree? So interconnection is in the very fabric. You can't separate the tree from the forest, and you cannot separate us from the tree of life. This is a cartoon depiction of how we as evolutionary biologists think about the tree of life. Each little squiggle is a species, and this is a representation of our entire deep family tree. We don't exist without 4 billion years of evolution leading to this precise moment. Forget about what you had for breakfast. Think about the billions of years of things going exactly the way they did for you to even be sitting here today. You cannot separate us from the root of the tree, which leads to all living things on our planet, and you can't separate us from the tips of the tree, all of our compatriots that are alive right now. So if this is true, if our reality is fundamentally about interconnection, then why don't we feel it? Why don't we live that way every day? And today I'm going to argue that it's because we're living from a very outdated, and I would argue dangerous worldview. We live in a world that tells you that you're a thing, I'm a thing. We're solid and separate from each other. You're over there, I'm over here. We each need things to survive. We've got to go out and get them. And whoever gets the most things wins. So even if you don't actively, consciously subscribe to a worldview of materialism, This is what you are fed every single day. It's in the water. It's a lot of what's built our society. And so even though we have a promise of connection, that our technologies will bring us ever closer together, not just physically, but also let our ideas travel, our thoughts travel, our emotions travel around the world, we all have begun to feel that this is a false promise. We are more alone, isolated, and fractured than ever before. You see it in our mental health, you see it in our social institutions, you see it in pain and suffering around the globe. And we are constantly bombarded by images of future catastrophe. And these affect us. And I want to make it very clear today that what I'm talking about is not only about future risk. It's not only about what's going to happen in 50 years. It's about what's happening right now. It's about the pain and isolation that we feel every day. The stakes are high, and they are not in the future. We as a species have done something unimaginable. We have changed this planet all by ourselves, one species change in the world. We've changed the very biogeochemistry of Earth from the depths of the oceans to the upper reaches of the atmosphere. And what this means is that all species, the millions of other life forms, are now living in an environment we built. Some of them physically are living in a built environment, but all of them are living in a planetary environment that we altered. If you take my beloved frogs, and I just tell you a little bit about them on the planet right now, they are facing extinction rates 100 times higher than they would if humans weren't altering the Earth. And that's not unique to frogs. We are seeing that across the tree of life. In fact, this is considered the 6th great extinction spasm that our planet has ever seen. But never before has an extinction spasm been caused by a single species. Our impacts as a single species are rewriting the history of this Earth and will be seen for millennia to come in the actual geological record. We've had such a dramatic impact on the planet that scientists consider us to have entered a new era that's called the Anthropocene, the age of us. And all of this can lead many people to become very fatalistic about our future and the future that we've created. And what I want to talk about for the rest of our time together today is how the human story is a many-chaptered story. And we are not the heroes in some absurd evolutionary cartoon that's not even accurate scientifically, but we are also not the villains of a story that's about to end. What we are is one in a family of humans that have walked this planet. Scientists currently estimate that there's been about 20 different human species on Earth before us, some of them even here at the same time. And we are young. We're not only the youngest of all humans, but we are actually young objectively as a species on the planet. Looking back through the fossil record, scientists estimate that on average species live on Earth for about 1 to 10 million years. And we as a species are well under 500,000. So I'm not promising you we have another 9.5 million years to go, but what I am suggesting is that we are basically evolutionary adolescents. This is a picture of my son's room. Actually, on a very good day, my daughter was like, wow, you got that. It's pretty good, pretty clean today. If you have teenagers, you know that adolescence is not characterized by incredible awareness of consequences, true responsibility, or deep wisdom. And how we teach our adolescents, how we help them grow up, because we're a social species, is that we teach them through culture. We teach them through learning. And what I would argue is that we actually need to do the same thing for ourselves as a species. We have a choice, like in The Matrix, red pill, blue pill, a world of suffering and isolation, or a world that really honors the depth of our interconnection. And we have to make this choice because if we are evolutionary adolescents, if we have a story left in front of us, we need to choose what we want that story to look like. We need to choose what we want our world to look like. And the way we choose our world is through choosing our worldview. And I want to just take a minute to really make this seem concrete. Look around you. You are sitting inside of a thought. You might be like, this is a building, Bree, thank you very much. No, it's a thought. This is a thought that someone had, and then it became a building. But before it was a building, it was an idea in someone's mind. And this is true of every single thing you encounter in your life. It's not only true of buildings, it's true of our social structures, it's true of our world. We have created a world through our thoughts. And we need to address those thoughts in order to reimagine what this Anthropocene might be. Instead of the Anthropocene being an era where greed and destruction defined what it meant to be human, what if it was an era of real reimagining? And the way to do this is threefold. First, we need to recognize that our worldview influences our world. This is a reciprocal interaction. If you are in a world that is constantly telling you you are a solid, separate thing that needs to self-protect and just barely skate by, you internalize, I internalize, we internalize that worldview, and then we spit it back out and continue to create a fractured world. So we need to recognize our worldview matters. And then we need to realize that it's causing us pain. Nobody likes pain. I'm with you. I remember when my daughter was a toddler and learning to walk, and she fell down, and my grandmother, bless her heart, ran over with a marshmallow and shoved it into her mouth before she could think about crying. And I remember thinking, this pretty much sums up my inherited relationship with pain. Like, avoid it at all costs. And so I started noticing, where am I metaphorically shoving marshmallows in my mouth all the time? And it turned out a lot. And it turned out that a lot of it was to avoid the pain that my worldview and our world was creating. So we need to recognize our worldview. We need to recognize that it's causing us pain. And then we need to consciously cultivate a worldview that's based on the truth of connection. This sounds hard, but it's actually very important because we can do connection internally as often as we want. And all of the psychological research suggests that this is what matters. Very small things very often. So think about making eye contact with someone. Think about asking someone how they are and actually listening to what they have to say. Think about writing a love poem to a loved one or a lemur. It doesn't matter. Do small things that actually cultivate a worldview of connection. In November, we passed the 8 billion mark on the human population on this planet. Instead of seeing that as a problem, as another global problem to solve, what if it was an opportunity? We have 8 billion opportunities a day to express a worldview of connection. And when we start expressing that worldview of connection, it has ripple effects. This is an exercise I do with my students all the time. We take an issue that they're studying, say extinction, and I ask them what causes that. And they go away, think and talk, and come back and like, overfishing, habitat loss. And then I say, what causes that? And they keep going away and coming back, and every time they come back with their answer, I say, what causes that? Until they come back with these kind of like nervous blank stares, like I don't know what this exercise is trying to get me to do. And that's the point where they've gotten to what I call a root cause. That's where they get to bottom out at the reality that things like greed, fear, alienation, and our sense of lack are what's causing species extinction. And the fascinating thing is once they realize that, they realize that it's the same root causes causing most of the social, economic, political, and ecological problems that they really care about. So this is empowering because it takes intractable problems that feel overwhelming out there, and it brings them in. It brings them into things that we can address in here. And that does not mean we stop working on the wicked problems of our day. It does not mean we start advocating for the things that matter to us, but it means we complement that with an inner change. We say that greed, fear, lack, and alienation are not human nature. They are an expression of our adolescence, and it's time for us to grow up. And every time we apply the medicine of generosity, the medicine of connection, we have incredible creative potential. We change our worldview, and that changes the world. It really does. It really does. Is this easy? No, of course not. But all transformation requires incredible meeting of challenge. And how we do that is we are honest about our fears, about the existential threats that we're facing, but we choose to love something more than fear. We choose love over fear, and what is that we can love? Well, as you might guess, my choice is connection. And not the thought of connection, but the feeling of connection. We stop performing connection, we stop curating it, we stop manipulating it, and we actually connect. The good news is that the truth is on our side, that connection is literally encoded in every fiber of our beings. And when we go against this, it hurts, but when we align, the path truly does appear beneath our feet. So we're gonna take a minute and feel it. And if you're willing, I'm gonna ask you to close your eyes for a sec and take a deep breath. You can grow your spine a little bit if you want. And imagine that everything I've said today can just come into the very center of your skull. Not the words, but the feeling of it. And imagine you could let that feeling of connection descend down into your heart and down through your pelvis to the earth. Your head's connected to your heart. Your breath is connected to the atmosphere. Your body's connected to the earth. And from here, make a little wish for yourself, something simple. May I feel deeply connected and live a life of great joy. Mean it. Offer that to yourself. Let your cells remember that this is already their nature. And then let that wish extend out to everyone else that's here today. May we all find deep connection and joy in our lives. And extend those boundaries. Let it extend all the way out, past this campus, past this country. May all living beings find connection and live lives of great joy and dignity. And as you're ready, you can just softly open your eyes. My own journey as a scientist and as a human being have led to the exact same conclusion. We are all a miraculous dance of connection. We are not connectors or connections. We are the ever-present, ever-renewing action of connecting itself. So we are not things, we are verbs. And we need to be living like verbs, like an ever-renewing, constantly moving process of connection. So we can't save this last little frog, but we can become the next humans. We can become the ones that let the pulse of connection renew our lives and deeply reshape our worlds. We can, not many worlds, let's start with this one, deeply reshape this world. And so we can spend our time doing small things that connect us back to ourselves, to each other, and to the entirety of the natural world. And in that way, we can truly reshape the Anthropocene and start a new chapter in human history. Thank you so much for being here today.